You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
We used to record everything outside in the backyard, and it was wonderful because it was like, today's a beautiful day, so we used to sit out there in the backyard and have these great conversations underneath our tree in the backyard, and it was great, but it made for really shitty audio over time.
It was just times. We
had
some neighborhood dogs.
Yeah,
some people
I was
improving
listening
their
to
yards.
the
The
doves,
airplanes.
the airplanes, the motorcycles, the kids,
What did
damn
you-
wiener kids.
What was the saw?
Somebody?
The tile
yeah,
cutter? I don't remember what you
they
called it.
were laying like pavers in the backyard, not in our backyard, but in the neighbor's backyard, doing a patio. So we had that saw going throughout several episodes. Our one neighbor next door was nice enough, like at one point he was in the backyard weed whacking,
Right.
and Steph's like went over and said, "Hey," and he was nice enough to like stop his yard work while we
Can you
finished
believe that?
recording.
I think now I look at that, I'm like, oh, we were jerks.
No, we were nice.
Excuse me, can you stop your yard?
He's a nice neighbor too.
They are so nice. They are so nice. We should give them some. Oh, Asher gave him a bunch of Hot Wheels. He took care of it.
Yeah, they've got little boys. I think like
Trade.
3 little boys. And they throw rocks over into our backyard. So when I'm in the backyard mowing, it's always kicking up little rocks that the kids had thrown over into the yard. But
Dang it.
what do you do?
My neighbors
Our
are
dogs
cops.
do that.
Are they?
Yeah, one's West Valley City PD with the K9. He owns the house next door, and his roommate's Twilla PD.
Nice.
And he's got the most epic Super Trooper mustache. He wants to come to the gym and play, and I was like,
Phenomenal.
come on in and play and wrestle. No one's gonna make fun of you except for that stash. Like,
Except for all of us.
they're not gonna make fun of your jiu-jitsu, but they're gonna make fun of that mustache for sure. Is what I told them.
Did you know I used to be a cop?
No,
Yeah, I was a cop in Twilla City for quite a while.
no, that makes sense. Why you? Get it? All right.
Tell me why that makes
It's
sense.
clicking together.
Yeah.
Like, there's certain times I'm like, how does he hold that much pressure right here? Like, all right, okay.
Yeah, no. I had all my crazy jujitsu from before I was a cop. And then I just got to use it as a cop. But
Fair enough.
yeah, I used to be a cop back in the day.
What made you quit doing that?
It wasn't a choice. It was decided for me. I was fired. So, yeah. You'll have to go back and listen to previous episodes of the podcast to hear the whole story.
Fair enough. I'll do
You
it.
just pulled an Asher. They want to know how it ends. They got to read the book.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's a long story. It's not something that's like,
Well, it's unfortunate that,
no, it's not. It's actually a beautiful
it's
fucking
probably
thing.
better, right?
It's so much better.
I was just talking with the stepdaughter, Zaylee, and her aunt just became a corrections officer, and she's all excited for her, and she's like, I want to be a cop. And I was like, look, it's not that great. She goes, I'm going to go to the prison and work with her. I was like, nah, that's the worst.
Did she go to state prison?
I don't know where she got
I have no idea where she's at.
but she's corrections, and I was like, look, that's
She just barely got onto it. She came out to Twilla and took the test 3 times and failed it all 3 times.
Yeah.
And then she went to Salt Lake, passed it the first time. I don't know if their test is easier there.
It is.
So
Salt
I thought
Lake
it was
County, but
odd that
either way,
Tooele
she's-
County would be harder.
she's gonna work corrections, and I'm trying to tell this 11-year-old girl, I was like, look, that's not the place you want to go, especially as a female. Like, that's just not.
I started out in the jail. I worked at Salt Lake County Jail for 2.5 years and then came out to Twilla and was on the road as a cop. So I did both. And corrections it's a fucking nightmare.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Like Brandon and Mark both did it right and got out. And I'm like, you see the other cops that are on the road and they don't mind their jobs, where you got Brandon and Mark both just itching. Like, I gotta
Yeah.
get away. I can't
Yeah, I fucking hate it.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, 2.5 years was like way longer than I wanted to do there. And by the end of it, I was like so grateful to get out of it. Just because that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
I don't want to sit and talk about
All right,
fucking
anyways.
the jail and being a cop and stuff like that.
apologize.
So, no, you're good. Welcome, you guys. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and be on our podcast.
Thanks
I'm
for
very,
having
very
us.
excited. Louie, why don't you tell people that are listening, including Stephanie, because I don't think I've actually explained it to her.
You explained nothing.
Didn't I?
No.
Communication's key, huh?
It likes to surprise me on the podcast because I do really good under pressure.
Yeah.
fair
You ask me a question and I'm just on it. No, I freeze.
Do ya?
I don't remember my name.
You're like, oh.
It's bad. It's bad.
No, but tell me why you wanted to be on the podcast, or what sparked it for you, or what was your kind of idea behind the whole idea of coming on the show?
Well, I've been through a lot. and I've had my ups, I've had my downs, and I've fought some demons, and I feel like I'm winning, and want to see if I can help. If I can help somebody else figure out that maybe it's not so bad, or avenues. I've tried in person with a few different people, and it doesn't work out well. I have a hard time pressing upon people that what I'm doing is right. I don't want to force anybody, but I also don't want to be quiet about it in case somebody is going to listen. So yeah, I just figured I'd come be part of the show.
You saw like something I posted on Facebook,
you posted something
right?
saying if you have interesting stories or you just want to come on and be on the podcast, hit you up. And I figured no better time to ask you to be on your podcast than you trying to strangle me. So
Did you kind of sit with it for a while and kind of think about it a little bit?
yeah, it's something I've thought about. I think I've been telling her for, I don't know, the last 6 or 7 months or so that, I've been thinking about trying to help somebody. I just don't know how to do it. I mean, how much time of being sober do you need under your belt before you can talk to somebody else about being sober, right? I feel like 3 weeks isn't enough to be like, hey, I'm sober now. You should do it too. Right?
You should try that.
Is 6 months enough? I don't know. Is that enough experience? Is a year enough?
Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe I'm talking out of my ass. Maybe what I have to say about not drinking alcohol isn't going to help anybody. Maybe that I'm wrong, but it's worked for me. So
How long do you have?
1 year, 3 months, and 7 days. So a
7
week.
days.
Yeah. So
You just barely made the cutoff. So you're good.
yeah. Yeah. So
Congratulations.
thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah. So January 4th, 2020 was the last day I had anything to drink. So
Fuck, man. To go sober for 2020,
Pandemic, right?
right? Like, who the fuck?
Ooh,
That's because
that's
you didn't
hard.
know in January that it was going to be the
shit
worst
show.
year of the entire planet.
Ever. Yeah.
So this is going to sound completely backwards, but best year of my life.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, even though I went through COVID and went through all the adventures, I got to see my daughters more than I'd ever seen them in the last 7 years of being separated. I got my jobs going great, and through that year, it only went better. I mean, I was able to excel in my work field. I was able to buy a house and a motorcycle and meet the love of my life, and I mean, it was a great year. So I really can't say COVID was that crazy, other than
All
under the
right.
mask and everything else. But
We should have talked about this before. Now we have to fucking end this show. We're done. Like, fuck you. 2020 was great for you. That sucks.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, honestly, it was though.
So cool to thrive.
That's the thing. I mean, I yeah, it sucked, but I didn't get sick. I don't know anybody else. I mean, I know people that got sick, but nobody died from it that I know of. I mean, I didn't lose my job. I didn't have to go on unemployment. I was better. I healed. I feel great. I mean, my jiu-jitsu went through the roof in a year's time. I mean, everything just changed. And I've watched other people's videos talk about that. Just quit. And when a year comes, see what your life is different. And they're not kidding.
Night and day difference, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy that you stop beating yourself or doing whatever you're doing, and everything just starts coming to you. All the things you wanted and all the things you, as a drunk, would blame on other people or blame, I'm not succeeding because of this or that, or I can't do this because of it. It's really all on you. It's all in your brain. It's the alcohol talking to you. Your brain's so strong. And that's the hard part, is defeating yourself.
Stephanie and I, we went crazy last year in 2020.
A little bit.
Not a little bit, a lot of it. Like, we went all the crazy.
We're both in therapy now.
We're both in therapy now. We have insane
great
anxiety. We did go on unemployment. What else?
I shut down for a little bit and then started back up very slowly.
Yeah, like, it just kind of all came to a cluster fucking crash, run it right off into the ditch and set the fucking truck on fire, and then walk away laughing maniacally.
We still did good things.
Yeah, we
I did
drank
good things.
a lot.
We did drink. Our 2020, like, I think we picked up for you.
I don't think I had a drink for like 2 years.
Yeah.
I went for a really long time without a drink for no reason. Well, I shouldn't say it wasn't for no reason, but it wasn't like I didn't feel like at the time that I had an issue with alcohol or anything like that. I just decided that I was going to stop drinking. And I did. And I just stopped. And then it was like, oh, okay. And then, yeah, I started again in 2020. But it wasn't a thing. I didn't feel like I was an alcoholic or anything like that. It was more or less just like it started out as a curiosity to see what it would change or if it would change anything. And then it was like, oh, well, I don't really miss having alcohol for any reason. And then 2020 hit, and I was like, you know what I miss?
We're
a bunch of fucking alcohol.
Stress.
Yeah.
A bunch of fucking beer. So,
I love beer. I mean,
Yeah.
I do. I still see it. And I think I got her, and she's like, nope. She never even seen me drunk. She's never even seen me drunk, but she knows. She's like, nah, you shouldn't have that.
Yeah.
That's because of my past.
So I'm very excited because you talked a little bit about, like, I gave you that thing where I'm like, give me your 30-second spiel on your life. And then it was like 3-minute spiel, but that's okay.
Oh.
Did you make an interview for it?
No.
See, my public education is not so good, so I don't know what 30 seconds is. Sorry.
Well, we're always like, because we like the idea that I think everybody's got a story. Everybody has something that's not just interesting about themselves, but we like to talk about all the stuff that people don't like to talk about. We like to talk about the things about life that are very challenging and difficult and kind of like not even the things that kind of define us or make us who we are, but like literally the shit that people don't like to talk about. Then they don't like to talk about it openly. They don't like to talk about it honestly. That's the kind of stuff that we try to continually talk about, even when it's like fucking hard and like, come on already. We're continuing, like we're still talking about this shit. But,
I like that people that hear it are also feeling it, and they don't, all of a sudden, they're not alone in that.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, that's crazy. Me too. It's not so crazy.
yeah. So when you asked me, I'm like, yeah, because initially I'm always like, yeah, if somebody wants to come on the podcast, that's great. Come on the podcast. But then at the same time, because you and I know each other a little bit, right? From the gym and everything like that. But we don't have any other sort of relationship outside of that. And so we've learned over the years that it's like, even though everybody's got a story, not necessarily everybody should be on a podcast to share their story. We've had some really fun people over the years that are great, beautiful
You
spirits.
have had fun people. It's been quality since I've been here.
You're saying that you've weeded out the...
He no longer talks to the...
We've had some fucking idiots that have come on this show.
There was one when I was here.
No, there's lots.
With me. You, yes.
Well, I mean, that's part of the real world, right? Like,
Yeah, you fucking idiots out
there's
there.
a lot of
They're
times
not
that there's people I've met in my life that I'm surprised they breathe while they sleep. Unfortunately, but it takes all kinds.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think those are the people now that are telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing, and I'm kind of having a hard time with it.
Right. So I listened to your little spiel that you gave me, and then I thought about it a lot. And there's so much stuff that I want to touch upon and so much stuff that I want to talk about. Because honestly, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to hear it.
Oh boy.
I hear Lindsay's got some too. She kind of let a little bit out. I'm like, there's a story there too.
I don't even know where to start because there's so many different things that I want to ask you. But
Let's see where he takes it.
gosh, yeah, where am I going to take it?
Not you.
Me?
No, let's see where Louie takes it.
I know, but I have a question.
Okay.
I'm just trying to
Okay, get your
pick
question.
out the questions that I want to ask about.
Well, to be fair, my 30-second spiel, there was a lot there, so I'm sure there was more than just sobriety of that. So,
Well, yes, your sobriety and your alcohol use is something that I want to get into, but I want to go back more. I want to go back further than that. So just to give you like a 30-second spiel on me, right? Because you, like I said, we don't have a lot of interaction with each other outside of jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. Over the past like 5 years, I've been doing tons and tons and tons of like work on myself. And the focus of that work has been heavily involved in regards to my emotional health and kind of my mental health. And really intensely in the last couple of years, it's been my emotional health and learning how to not just feel my emotions, but how to connect to them, how to express them, how to feel them like in more complete, full ways. And a lot of that has come through men's work, I found this organization. I started to become involved with them and went to like retreats and events and week-long things and just like dove headfirst into it. And we have a men's group that meets every week in Salt Lake, and it's just a group of guys that sit around and practice emotional awareness and feeling and expression and all this kind of stuff. So that's been a huge aspect of what I've been doing over the last few years, and it's been really beneficial and helpful for me. But I've sat with a lot of men during that time period, and it's really fascinating to me how much of a struggle it is for men to talk about not just their emotions, but to talk about some of the really difficult emotions and a lot of the pain. So remember, I told you at the beginning before we push record that obviously you can say, fuck you, I don't want to talk about that stuff. And that's totally fine. And we can move on.
Fair enough.
We've had a lot of people on the podcast, and we've had women come on the podcast, and Stephanie herself, obviously, she's a woman, and she talks openly about trauma. She talks openly about abuse. She talks a lot about things that have shaped who she is as the person that she is today. And we've had other people come on, other women specifically, that they too have talked about emotional abuse and physical abuse and sexual abuse and all of these different types of abuses that unfortunately women tend to experience in their lives. But I was sitting there thinking about it since you and I talked, and leading up to today, I was thinking about how much men avoid talking about the real realities of what that abuse or what abuse in general looks like to them over the course of their life, from the time that they were kids, in every little kind of aspect that abuse, just specifically abuse and trauma, affects them. And I know you hinted at some things and you talked about some things real briefly in your 30-second spiel. So that's kind of the place I'd like to start. And the intention is I always do the best that I can to talk about my trauma and my abuse. And sometimes I feel like I hit it out of the park and I do a great job. And then other times I fucking fail miserably like a classic dude and shut down and we move on, and I'm fucking angry the rest of the day. And
You throw your toothpick down?
I throw my toothpick down.
Cinnamon's toothpick.
Knock all this fucking equipment over and storm out of the room. So that's my hope, is that if you're okay, I want to go into some of those spaces, specifically early childhood, just as far back as you can remember, what type of abuse and trauma you experienced throughout your life that led you up into, in one way, shape, or form, shaping who you are today, right? So that's a big question.
Yeah, that's a big question. As far as back as I can remember, there was always some physical or mental abuse, no matter what I did or said. I could never do anything right, unfortunately. My dad was a truck driver, so until I was about 10, and he was always gone, 48 state truck driver, gone 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks at a time, home for a few days, and then gone again. So was my mom, just a waitress working at D's. Dad's a truck driver, not much growing up, pretty poor.
And then how many siblings do you have?
So I have 3 siblings. My sister was born when I was 7, my brother when I was 9, and my youngest brother when I was 12. So I was the oldest by a bit. And around 7 or 8 is when things just went out of hand, and I don't understand why. I don't know if I just didn't remember it before that or I didn't see it, but my first experience with it, I was at home playing video games. You had that old school 27-inch TV on the ground, the Zenith that had the broken power knob, that you couldn't.
A pair of pliers on there.
You had to unplug it from the wall, or if someone pushed it in, you had to, couldn't turn up the volume, all that shit. I had that TV. I had my Sega Genesis or my Nintendo NES hooked up to it at the time, and my aunt called. But my aunt was in Japan. My mom and dad weren't home. My dad was never home, so whatever. I talked to her for a minute, and I tried to remember what was said. My dad came home, and he sat down next to me, and I was laying with a pillow underneath my chest on the floor playing video games, and I was like, hey, Aunt Cindy called, and this is what she said. She's like, call later or whatever else. And as I'm playing, I was like, oh yeah, and she said this, and I was like, oh yeah, and she said this, and the next thing I knew, he reached down and grabbed me by the back of my head and smashed my front teeth out into the coffee table because I couldn't remember a conversation that my aunt had with me. So...
And this is like 7 or 8?
Yeah, I'm like 8, 9 years old. So he knocks my teeth out and he throws me into the dining room, and my one tooth's hanging, one tooth's completely out, and now I have to go through the whole ordeal of my teeth are gone, and I'm scared, I'm freaking out. And instead of my mom calling the cops or handling it, she puts one tooth in a cup of milk and takes me to the dentist. But the whole way it's, hey, you know, you got to tell me you were chasing your sister around the coffee table and you fell. You can't tell me your dad did this. Huh. Weird. So I kind of brushed it off, right? Mom says it's okay. Dad says it's okay. I guess it's part of it. It's part of life. Mess up. Get your teeth knocked out. Probably a year or so later, I remember coming home from school and my dad was like, what happened to school today? I had no idea. I was always a small kid. I mean, I'm not a very big guy now either, right? 5'6". But when I was 10, I was probably 50 pounds, maybe. I mean, I went to 7th grade. I was 4'7", weighed 60 pounds. So how big could I have been at 10? He told me that the vice principal called him and said I beat some kid up at school. I was a bully. But I was this little long-haired hippie kid that never hurt anybody. So he takes me upstairs and he's got this belt my grandma sent him. And it's this cowhide leather belt, but it has his name, Ronnie, in metal riveted to this belt. And he was going to spank me for kicking this kid's ass at school. And I didn't do it. So I thought, I'll run. He caught me by the arm, spun me around, and he buried his shin into the back of my neck, pinned me to the ground, and wailed on me so hard with that belt that my mom, for the first time ever, stopped him. So, I think I had a Y from the sheet metal letter on the belt. I had that print in my ass for probably 6 months because of the bruising and the scarring and the tearing. But then again, it was fine. Nah, it was okay with mom. It was okay with dad. Again, don't fuck up or that's what happens, right? Every day I'm told that I'm stupid, that I can't do anything right. And it just gets worse as I get older. Now my dad starts having fun with it. If I get in trouble for any reason now, when he spanks me, he plays baseball. Hold on to the desk. And I have to hear my dad, all right, Ron steps up to the plate, and he just drills me right in the back of the legs. He's using a 2x4 now. The belt's been gone, so now he's got a stick. And he's taking my legs out from underneath me, and he's laughing. And he's, line drive, home run. Hit me in the back and legs. Just terrible shit. We're poor. We don't have any food. I'm getting free food from the church. I don't have a bed. I'm sleeping on the floor. Dog shit in the floor. My mom and dad don't clean anything. Laundry gets done once a month maybe. I got one pair of pants. I have to steal socks from IGA. So I have clean socks on my feet because I got crusty fucking socks. My clothes are all given to me by my friends. Anything I do, extracurriculars, always with my friend's family, never with mine. There was no making the man happy. No matter how hard I did, 12 years old, you're going to start working on cars. I didn't want to work on cars. I didn't want to get dirty. And it was the same with that. It was the first time I ever worked on anything. I was 12 years old. He brought me out in the garage and he said, all right, take that alternator off the car. And he was gone. What does a 12-year-old do with a socket set? Just starts tearing shit apart, right? Like, I didn't know that at the time, but like, I tore this alternator off. He had the new part right there, so I was like, I got to get that off. And so I took these brackets off, and I took belts off, and I can't remember all the shit I took off this car. And we came back out, and he's like, oh, we got it off right. Well, we're going to put a new one back on. And he's like, well, how does this bracket go on? I don't know. I took the bolts out, but I didn't pay attention to this bracket of how it goes on there. And then I woke up and realized that he had backhanded me and knocked me out because I couldn't remember how the bracket went. So, interesting times. I remember being grounded for 6 months of my life in junior high because I got 2 B's on my report card. Grounded on my birthday. And he didn't even remember it was my birthday until I brought it up to him. But free labor. I worked for him on his semis. He owned 3 semis that he ran out of Centerville. He was a fucking tyrant. And I hated that man for a long time. And I still do. And he's been dead for 20 years this year. So...
So you're the oldest of 4 kids, right?
Yeah.
I apologize, you had brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah, 1 sister, 2 brothers.
1 sister, 2 brothers. Were they also experiencing anything to the level that you were, or did it seem like you were the one that was taking the brunt of it?
So I took the brunt growing up. Now, when I left, or stayed behind, however it went down, my younger brother, Dustin, he got it too. And he got it pretty bad. Not for as long as I did, because my dad died shortly after. I think my brother got 2 or 3 years of pretty intensive abuse over dumb shit. My sister, I don't know. She has stories that I can't confirm with her, but that's for another story. And then my youngest brother, no, he was the favorite. He was the favorite, and I don't think he ever really saw any of it, but he was also young when my dad died too. So I think he's 28? So he was 7 or 8 when my dad died. So he doesn't, what he remembers, excuse me, we've almost gotten into drunken fights because he'll tell me that our dad was great and our dad was this and all this other shit. I'm like, there was a time where he would buy them motorcycles, dirt bikes, and he was doing things with those boys that he never did with me. So I was happy for that. So later on in his life, after he moved to Oregon, he was still a tyrant and was going crazy, beating my mom and everything else. But he was trying, I think, harder. He was, trying to get involved in the boy's life. But I can never understand why my mom would allow all that to happen to herself or her children. That was a hard part for me. But it
Have you ever asked your mom that? Sorry.
You're fine.
That was good.
Maybe.
I feel like it would maybe give you some peace just to ask her. And I feel like she owes you that.
Yeah. My only guess is survival, right? So.
Was he abusing her at the same time?
Absolutely. Like, I've seen her dragged by her hair through the kitchen with a gun in her face, put in her mouth. I've seen her kick down a flight of stairs while she's pregnant out the front of a sliding glass door. I've seen the aftermath of multiple times where he's almost killed her. I don't know.
Was he an alcoholic?
Not that I know of.
Was he an addict in any way?
I think in the end he was, but I don't.
Nothing that was real obvious growing up?
No. Nothing that was real obvious. The confidence thing was the hard part, though. It was super hard to feel like I could do anything or be anything. And I feel like I've spent most of my life trying to prove that I could be something. And over the last year, just this last year, I've started to realize that I am worth someone's time.
So all of that stems from just him, all the verbal abuse and the mental and
Yeah,
all the shit that he would say to you over the years and things like
for
that.
sure. For sure.
If your mom, and like we're just like fucking knee deep in this now, so we're just gonna keep going, right? Was your mom like, what is, I know she's not stopping necessarily any of the behavior, right? And she's not necessarily curbing any of it, but what is she doing? Is she,
Nothing.
She's just not there for the most part?
She's there.
Working?
No, she's there. She's in the room doing whatever he wants her to do.
Okay. And then is she trying to like make it better after the fact? Is she trying to make up
there's
for?
no cuddling. There's no coddling. There's no, I'm sorry. It's me by myself.
Because he would probably, she would wreak havoc for it, I'm sure.
Well, then from 7 on, like, I don't remember a time that I didn't babysit. Like, I remember being 7 years old and having the worst headache in my life, and I have an infant screaming. At 11 years old, they would go out of town for days, and I would take care of the kids, and I was 11 years old. So I'd have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old kid that I would take care of, and that'd be for days. I can't remember a time that I wasn't responsible for somebody else.
They left you like alone for days at a time?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So very interesting. But yeah, that was the hard part. There was no afterwards, like sometimes my dad would tell me he did it because he loved me, which was, so you just pretended to be Hank Aaron on my ass playing baseball, but you did that because you love me. Like, one of the last conversations I had with him was on his birthday. So my dad died on his 39th birthday. Got killed by a drunk driver on his way home. And on his last phone call with my mom, he had told her that he was on his way home to shoot her and the kids. And he died on his way home, so. But I had talked to him before that, and he wanted me to come out to Oregon. And he wanted me to start working with him. And I'd worked at his shop for him since I was 12. I mean, I spent 8 years building semis, and we did custom 4-wheel drives from Moab. I built all kinds of crazy shit. I built a SWAT van for North Salt Lake City Police Department. I mean, I've done a lot of crazy stuff, and he would give me like $20 a weekend if he let me go at all. I was there. I couldn't do extracurricular activities at school in high school because I had to be there by 3:30, and then I wouldn't leave till 1 a.m, and then I'd be there all weekend. And it was just always work, all the time. And it was unreal what schedule he would keep me on. And I'd watch him bill people $40,000 to build a custom 4-wheel drive Jeep, and I'd get $40 of it. And that came to a head. That was quite interesting.
You said that he moved to Oregon. Like, did the whole family move?
Yeah, so he took everybody, sorta. I stayed behind.
How old were you when they moved?
I was 19. Oh, sorry, I was 18, almost 19. It was 1999, just graduated high school. And they were going to move to Newport, Oregon, and buy a crabbing boat. So he sold his 3 semis, he sold the shop, the hot rods, the race car. We had a race car for Rocky Mountain Raceway. Got rid of everything, and just bailed. And so that was one of the last things. He's like, "Hey, quit your job. Help me get everything in order. Spend these last 3 months before I move, and I'll make sure you're taken care of." So he went to Oregon, started everything. My mom went 2 weeks later, and she gave me an envelope, and I had packed the whole U-Haul myself, like by myself, literally, the washer, dryer, all of it. They didn't help me do shit. I cleaned out the shop, everything else, and the guy left me $50 because he knew it'd be enough gas money to follow him. But where I was trying to go with that before was at any point in time she could have left, and he left her that time and told her not to come, and she went anyways.
Did he take your brothers and sisters with him?
No,
he just went by himself.
By himself with my uncles. And so that was pretty interesting on that. I'm trying to remember what I was trying to talk about working on cars with him for, just being forced to do that stuff. But there was I can't remember my train of thought now. There's just so much in my brain.
It's all good. I'm just trying to get a timeline in a sense, right? So we've got Obviously, just fucking the nightmarish situation from pretty much the beginning of time that you're born until now. And he moves when you're 20, so at least he's no longer in your life in a physical sense, right? But now from the time that you're 19, 20 years old until now you're 40, now we've got 20 years to unpack everything that he gave you, right?
He died when he was 39. How old were you?
I was 20. His birthday's
like
a
a
week
year.
before my birthday. So I spent my 21st birthday burying him.
Okay.
So.
Fuck, Louie.
And then I took care of my mom, my brothers, and my sister and raised them, moved to Oregon, and tried to do that thing.
How long were you up there doing that?
So I was there for a little over 3 years, trying to get everything squared away, and then there was obviously court hearings and everything else. So the guy that was driving the vehicle that killed my father had been drinking and partying all day with his buddy. He was coming down Cape Foulweather between Newport and Depot Bay, Oregon. It's a nasty cape. It's real foggy all the time. But he went across 4 lanes and hit my dad head on and killed my dad instantly. So his mom works in the jail system out there. Small town community, small fishing town. He goes to jail. Passenger gets broken leg and brain damage real bad. Car turns out it's the passenger's girlfriend's car. Never had permission to drive the car. Insurance isn't going to pay anything. Not going to help out with anything. In the court hearings, they ended up finding he had testicular cancer when he was in jail. So he went through chemotherapy, got his testicles removed, lost his hair, all that stuff. And he tried to plead to the judge that he had paid his dues on that. So comes around to the judge gives him a 1.5 years in jail for the DUI and 5 years in jail, or 5 years probation for the manslaughter, with the caveat of if you are caught drinking ever again, you will spend the rest of your probation in prison. Kid spends 6 months in jail, gets out. They find him 11 hours later hammered, so he goes back to jail. This time he spends 3 months in jail, never makes it to prison, gets out early again. I think he made it 4 days the second time. Goes back to jail. I think 2.5 months later, he got out and he made it 6 days before they found him on the sidewalk completely intoxicated. And at that point, his family would make us feel like it was our fault. So I had to leave out of there. So then that's what I brought them all back here to Utah from Oregon.
Mom and siblings and everything?
Yeah. So. When he died, my confidence went up. And I thought it was enough. I thought that everything was going to be okay. What I wasn't ready for was the mindfuck that all of it was going to play on me in my later 20s and in my 30s.
Yeah, that's the stuff that I want to get into. Because I think that oftentimes, I mean, I'll just speak for myself rather than sit here and extrapolate all these different things from people or from things I've heard and stuff like that. But like from my experience, the trauma that I had growing up, I compartmentalized, I buried, I minimized, I just did everything that I possibly could to try to make it not what it was. And then at some point, right, like moved out, early 20s, life kind of begins and I'm starting to, grow up and do whatever. And then,
I don't think that's me.
do you want to silence it real quick?
It's not me. I don't know who it is.
Lynzie, come on.
Me.
Sorry, I can't hear it.
That's okay.
The headphones.
I can hear the echoing, but I couldn't tell who it was. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Okay.
That's it, not mine.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But then as life goes on, you just try to move on and you try to forget about it. And I try to convince myself that it doesn't really have any effect on me as an adult.
Wrong.
Right?
Yeah.
Of course. Because then, my life proceeds in certain ways and certain experiences and things like that. So that's my question is like, you've got this experience as a child. And I mean, really all the way up until it sounds like in your early 20s, mid 20s. And then you finally get to start, I don't know, like fucking living for yourself or trying to create some sort of life for yourself or do anything at some point, right? What does that look like? And then what is the fucking...
It doesn't. I spend the next 15 years taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
Brothers, sisters, moms, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, godchildren. I don't know. All you name it. I at one point had in my home, my family with me, my ex, my one daughter, and then my mom, her stepmom, all living together, my brothers, my sister, her kids, all under the same roof trying to take care of all these kids. Like, I spent the next 15 to 18 years just always looking out over somebody else. And in every chance they can take, I feel like most you didn't take advantage, but there's certain ones, especially my family, that just see a free ride and they take more advantage of it than they probably should. So,
baby, before I go off on more caveats, what are some things that you want to say or questions that you have?
How old's your daughter?
My oldest will be 15 in July.
15? How many do you have?
I have two daughters. Elandria will be 15 in July, and Vivian's 10 in August. And then we have two step kids, her son and daughter. Zaylee, who's 11, will be 12. And Tadian, who is 7, and he'll be 8.
So they had the same mix that we did
Yes.
when they got together.
Yes. Awesome.
So.
And forgive my math. How old were you when you had your first?
24, almost 25.
24.
Yeah, so
okay.
I didn't mess that up. I knew that. So my parents had me when they were 18, and so obviously growing up, I heard about it all the time, right? Like, oh, you don't want to do that, and they're right. Like, I don't want to do that, but I also didn't want to be like 35 and have my first either, right? I didn't want to be 50 with a 15-year-old. That just didn't sound like fun to me. So I did wait for that. At least I didn't have, which I don't know how. Like my high school career, I should have had more kids than me. But yeah, 25 is when I had, or 24 is when I had my oldest.
Okay.
So.
At what point did you start drinking? Because I know that you said that it hadn't really been an issue until...
Yeah, so that was the weird thing, right? So I grew up with my dad pounding in my brain that all drugs were bad, and like I didn't experiment even with marijuana as a teenager. I was pretty clean and sober till I was 30. I'd have some beers here and there, but like I couldn't even stand the taste of beer, really. Alcohol was never my really a thing of my choosing. So 2012 or 13, can't remember, somewhere around there. I get kicked out of my house going through divorce, and I moved to North Dakota with my brother, who's in the oil field out there. And I'll tell you what, those North Dakota oil field guys can drink. When I first started off as anybody else, right, you have 4 or 5 drinks and you're pretty much toast and things go away. Well, I developed the taste for alcohol, so I mean it wasn't too crazy at the time. I could handle my stuff. The hangovers weren't bad. I didn't become violent. I had a few blackout times, or a couple times where the next day, like, people would be like, hey, like, what's going on? But I was a bartender, so I got a bartending job in North Dakota and met a lot of friends. But everybody I met, they were, my friends. All they do is drink, right?
Yeah, super functional alcoholics.
Super functional, and some of them would be oil field workers, so they'd be gone for 20 days and home for 10 days, and they'd come home and they just have all this money. And if you went and partied with them, they paid for everything, but it got out of hand. Like, it'd just be party buses and just stupid amounts of alcohol. And even then, I had it under control. So I moved out of out of bartending, and I had a couple of regulars that were in the wind industry, so they worked on wind turbines making renewable energy. And they were like, hey, you shouldn't be bartending, you should come work with us. Like, hell yeah, I'll go work with these guys. Like, these guys climb 300 feet in the air to work, right? Like, they're all going to be these big, buff, like, in-shape guys. Wrong. They're all alcoholics, every single one of them. I shit you not. Like, the stress level of that job and the stress of electrical parts that might kill you, or hydraulic stations that might kill you, or falling to your death, whatever might have you. Leads a lot of them to drink, so you drink a lot. So my drinking got even more, and I got into more violent or like fist fights with my brother out in the front in the snow in North Dakota. It's 30 below zero, and we're out in the front yard fist fighting because we're hammered drunk on Thanksgiving. Stupidest shit ever. So I get an opportunity, and I get given a wind farm on Maui. I'm like, hey, move to Maui, run this wind farm.
What do you mean given a wind farm?
So there was a position come open. I worked for a company, a wind company called Siemens. They have a wind farm on Maui, and they needed a site lead out there. So like, hey, you've only been in wind for like 9 months, but you were kicking ass and taking names. You should go run the site. All right. It's the first time I'd ever worked for any company that, like, if you said you could do it, they'd let you. Like, cool, man. Yeah, do it. And if you proved you could do it, they would not hold you back. Not like most companies, like, you've been here for a year. Hold on. Like, you can't be the CEO yet.
Yeah.
Hold on, right? Not with these guys, man. It was crazy. They were like, no, they said you could. You should be able to do that. So I get sent out to Maui, and, man, I don't know how I pulled it off, honestly. Like, when I went out there, I went out with 2 duffel bags full of clothes, and that's it. But I don't have been working on wind turbines for like 9 months. I worked on cars my entire life, right, since I was 12, I told you about. But the only thing that saved me is I got up there and everything looked like car parts. They had a brake rotor, they had brake calipers, they had brake pads. I was fortunate enough to be able to read an E-plan or a hydraulic diagram. So I get out to Maui. Man, I'm kicking ass and taking names. I'm crushing life. And some shit goes down with my ex, and I have to go take my kids from her. So now I've got my girls, Maui. We're crushing it. My dumbass, I guess not dumb at the time, tries to put my marriage back together. She comes out. We're on the island. We're both drinking pretty good. Still under control, though. I mean, I'm an alcoholic, but it's not out of hand yet.
Are you drinking like every day?
Every day, yeah. But a few shots here or there. There might be a couple of days where I don't have one, but like it's a good buzz. But it's not like can't hammered, right?
What do you define as out of hand?
Well, I'll tell you what I'll define as out of hand. So I don't even know what happened, and I'm sure no one believes me, but like one day she just shut off and she was done. Then like done. There was no talking. It was just, and she left. And she took my youngest with her, and she left my oldest with me, and I spiraled out of control. I got so bad at the point where if I didn't have alcohol in my system that I couldn't control my hands. I would walk around my apartment, and my hands would click, and I couldn't do anything until someone or myself would go to the liquor store and get me a shot. But by this point, they're 100 proof shots. I can't mess around with no 70 proof whiskey like I need. And I'll do
Everclear.
Yeah, Everclear. But I'll drink 15 or 20 of those in a day, of those shots, let alone Mike's Harder lemonades on top of that, just to function. A hangover's so bad that you just start drinking again because the pain is intolerable. And I had no care of anything being okay. I remember having the craziest panic attacks and the craziest anxiety from not being able to sleep because of the alcohol, of always having to have a drink, and the withdrawals and the pain and the night sweats, and how crazy it was. And how much I would tell myself that I was done and that I wouldn't do it again, and that tomorrow was going to be a new day and I wouldn't drink. And if I made it to work, because there were a lot of days I called in because I was just too fucked up to drive. At least I was smart enough to know that. I had no business being in a wind turbine that produced 3 megawatts of power. When I'm dealing with voltages from 690 volts down to 110 regular or 24 volt, depending on the control system, or hydraulic stations that make enough pressure to cut limbs off or crush fingertips off or whatever might have you. It finally got to the point where I had to stop. I had to quit. But that was because my youngest brother, I had moved him out to Maui with me. He saw I was becoming an alcoholic, and his response to get me to quit was to throw me under the bus without me knowing. So I used to have to travel to Florida from Maui for work training 2 or 3 times a year for certification, re-updates, or whatever have you. Well, the last trip I took out there, I didn't know it, but my brother decided to smoke weed with my then 11-year-old daughter. So that way when her mom found out, she would take her from me, and then I would have no excuse to stay on the island of Maui any longer. It worked. It worked because she got taken from me, and shit spiraled fast out of control.
Did you ever get remarried, or did you guys just try to make it work?
Just try to make it work.
Okay.
Yeah. So, luckily I had Brian, and I quit. I packed up 2 duffel bags of clothes again, and I came back to Utah.
And just for the people that are listening who don't know who Brian is,
Yeah,
because obviously I do, but who's Brian?
So Brian is actually my ex-brother-in-law. We've been best friends for 20 years now. So regardless of marriage, divorce, or anything like that, like, we're family no matter what happens with his sister. But yeah, so he's the uncle to my 2 daughters.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Brian says, come on out, man. Come out, get sober, do jiu-jitsu, all that stuff. So I knew it was bad while I was there. Like I said, I was having anxiety and this crazy depression. It was bad. But for about a month, I was really worried that I had damaged my nervous system from all the alcohol. Like, my hands, I couldn't even write my name. I couldn't control a pencil. I couldn't work on cars. I couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything. And we got into jiu-jitsu. And that helped. For a minute. And then my brain told me, hey, you can have a beer. No worries, right? I've been clean for like 6 months. What's a beer? And then it's 3 beers, and then it's 3 beers and a shot, and then it's a bottle of whiskey, but you're only going to drink a quarter of it. It's not that big a deal. You only drank a quarter of it last night. Shit, you still got 3/4. That's 3 more days. And then it's half a bottle a night, and you're like, oh, shit. Fuck. All right, well, it's only half a bottle, right? It's not that big a deal. And the next thing you know is you drank a whole bottle that you bought in the morning, and it's only 4 in the afternoon, and you're going for your second bottle because you need something through the night. Because you're going to wake up every couple hours. And your body's going to be mad. And there's only one way to shut it up. So then you spend a couple weeks of that. Or maybe you go through a 4 or 5 day bender where you don't remember the passing of time. Or your actions, and people are trying to tell you what the fuck you did or what you said. Showing you pictures or video of yourself. And sure as shit, it happened again. Right? To the point where now I have to have conversations with people. Like, hey man, you can't be doing that shit, right? Yeah, you're right, no problem. So, I quit. Again. Made it like 9 days. Start drinking again. Get back to a bottle a day again. Quit again. And the cycle just repeats and repeats and repeats. Probably 3 or 4 times. I quit. I feel good about myself for a day or 2, and then I get right back to it. And I can't drive in from work and past the liquor store without stopping. I just can't do it. It's the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in my life. But at the time, it was easy to talk yourself into it, right? I don't have a beautiful significant other. My kids aren't with me. I live in the basement of Brian's house. I have a dog. He's got food. We're good. So everything started escalating at one more time, and I was telling myself that, man, I need to get this done. It was the end of 2019. My 39th birthday was weird for me, right? I didn't want to go anywhere. I'm not really superstitious, but my dad died on his 39th birthday. And so, look, I'm just going to stay here. And I'm going to get shit-faced drunk. So that's what I did. And then the day after that, I did that. And the day after that, I did that. By Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, by Christmas, I'm still doing it. New Year's. Holy shit, man. Did you just drink a bottle of whiskey on New Year's? Fuck, man, you got to stop. Nope. So I'm telling myself I need to stop. Like, dude, you're going to die. Like, when I was on Maui, it got so bad that there was blood in my urine, like, body was shutting down. Then I could feel myself approaching that. My kidneys hurt all the time. I was just in agonizing pain all the time. And then I go to a fight. Zach Cavender's fighting January 4th, 2020, right before all the crazy shit went down, right? I get a ride there, and I'm hanging out, and we're bullshitting, and this smoking hot lady comes walking by, and she's looking at these tables, and there's a number on the tables where we're sitting at, and I recognize her. She's from the gym. But I also know that she's recently single. And so like, I'll be right back. So I go walking around, like, hey, what table are you looking for? And she's like, oh, I'm looking for whatever. I'm like, the same table I'm on. So I walk her over to the table that I'm sitting at, and we start to have a pretty good discussion. We've never really talked before, but through the course of the night, I ask her, hey, let me go buy you a drink. You and your friend will go buy you a drink. So I buy a whiskey and Coke for myself, and as I'm drinking this whiskey and Coke, this extremely attractive young lady is telling me about all the hardships she's gone through with alcohol and how it has affected her previous marriage and her life for the past while. And my brain's like, oh yeah, well, if you even think you can have a shot with that, you can't drink. And it's like Jiminy Cricket in the back of my brain. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I finish my whiskey and Coke. We go down, we watch the next fight, we're giggling, we're laughing. Next intermission or break, whatever, I'm like, hey, let's go get another drink. So I think I've bought her like 3 or 4 by now because, I'm trying to make sure that I seem like a good guy through the night. And I buy myself a tall Bud Light. And we're laughing, we're talking upstairs and everything else. And about halfway through, the voice just says, stop. Throw it away. I threw it away, and I never touched it again. Not for the last 1 year, 3 months, and a week. And it's all because of her.
So that's when Lynzie enters the picture.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot more questions. So before we go there, is there anything that you want to ask, baby, before we transition into other stuff? Because I'm sure that there's like...
Sorry if that roller coaster is there, but I don't know where else to go. I talk a lot.
No, you're totally good.
Thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable with that. That was a lot to be brave enough to express. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You had to spend a lot of time with your kids this last year or 2020 and...
Yeah, because since they didn't have school in the building, they had school online. It was like, hey, I've got internet here. So I was able to get them. Usually I get them for the summer, July through usually middle of August. So first part of July through August. So I get my girls for both their birthdays, which is great. But then after that, it's every other Christmas. So, I mean, I only get 6-7 weeks a year usually with my daughters. And so 2020, I got them from April. And I kept them until August. There was only a 2-week break. Wow. And then they came back again. They were just here for a week. I got them for 2 weeks earlier. So this whole school from home thing has been kicking ass for as far as I'm concerned. Like, we should keep doing it. I understand it's a struggle, but like...
We had them for Christmas.
Yeah,
we got them quite often this
If
year.
I get to see my kids more, like, I'm all about it. So, but yeah, I got to experience sobriety. I got to see my kids more. I got to realize there were things that I'd given up. I blame myself real bad for my divorce and the separation the second time and the first time even. And
well, that's kind of one of the questions that I have is, I mean, oversimplifying to a grand, like hugely oversimplifying, right? Because things are so multidimensional and there's so many different aspects and so many different rhymes and reasons and, you know, all sorts of different stuff. So we're just oversimplifying just for the fact of time, really, because it's fucking...
I apologize.
It's not.
Don't.
I'm saying if we were to go into stuff, it would be an 8-hour podcast.
Just have to have you back.
Well, at some point during this time period, right? Because if I'm tracking everything, so kind of early 30s, pretty much your entire 30s is just all alcohol to some extent, right? Various phases of in and out.
Late 30s.
Yeah.
Mid 30s, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And then during that time period, do you ever have some recognition of what it is that you are using alcohol for? Like, what do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is the coping mechanism? What is the thing that you're trying to not feel?
I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, I went through a phase where I thought everybody liked me better when I was drinking, right? I had a bad habit of trying to please everybody, make sure everybody liked me. It was a bad habit, always trying to please everybody. But I just drank to not feel. And then I just drank to drink. I drank to be an asshole. That's hands down what it was. I was just being an asshole. And, you know, that affected everybody around me. And it also affected me. I mean, I'm one of those cases where I didn't go seek treatment. I didn't go to the doctor, but just from the level of pain and the level of things that I know my body's been through, that I know that if I ever become that way again, that I will not live through it, just by how bad it makes my body feel and the things it took away from me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the driving factors not doing it anymore, right? I still have those urges. We still have get-togethers where all my friends get together in a circle in the kitchen and I'll have shots, and I miss that.
Yeah.
But I don't at the same time, right? I don't make her not drink, you know, and if she decides to go drink or have fun, the next day when she has a hangover, my first thought is, not me. Not me. I don't try to be rude about it. I try to, you know, help her out because I know it can be bad, but my hangovers would be just... I can't believe you do that to yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So, Lynzie, like, first off, the question that I want to ask is, I mean, there's so many questions, but I want to get a little bit of background on you as well. And you don't have to, basically you can share whatever you want to share, right? But give us some sense of, I guess, to like frame it in a sense, I'll just use Steph and I, okay? We've been together almost 10 years. We just celebrated our 6th year anniversary last week. And we're totally different people than when we met. And when we met, like, it's very, very, very safe to say that we were both fucked up and had copious amounts of fucked upness, for lack of a better term, right? Just like overflowing in our lives, in both of our lives. So we meet at a time in our lives where neither one of us have our shit together. Neither one of us really have any sort of skill set for what a healthy relationship is or how to be in a healthy relationship. And we just have a lot of baggage to unpack for ourselves individually, and then as well as in the space of relationship. So that's kind of what we come to the table with. And then we clusterfuck our way through, 10 years until today. And finally, yay, babe, we're in therapy. Finally. So I think it's always fascinating, not what brings people together, but I believe that, obviously we meet the people that we meet and we're attracted to the people that we're attracted to, and life steers us in these directions, and we're always right where we're supposed to be. And that means that we're always with the person that we're supposed to be with at that moment in time and all that kind of stuff. But that being said, there's always stuff behind the scenes. There's always things that led us to those points. There's always things in life experiences. And so what are some of the life experiences that lead you to meeting Louie, and not just meeting him, but like in some way, shape, or form being drawn to him and attracted to him and thinking that like, oh yeah, this sounds like a good idea, right? Because it's no judgment against you, of course, right? But it's like you didn't paint the picture of, you know, this guy.
Luckily, she didn't know me really. She seen me at the gym, but she didn't really.
Right. But at some point, you know, you start dating somebody and you start to learn more and you start to learn more. And eventually you get to the point where you know a lot, and then you still continue. So what is it that, you know, you don't have to go in, like I said, as much as you want to share, but give us some backstory on you and leading up to.
So the biggest thing for me is him choosing to not drink. And the reason behind that is my previous marriage. I was married 12 years, got 2 kids from it, and he was a raging alcoholic. So, and just as time went on, it just got worse and worse. And I feel like the biggest reason I stayed was because he always said he was going to quit. He was going to quit. He was going to quit. And I just would pray all the time that he was going to quit. And it just never happened. And it just got worse and worse as time went on. And he started getting emotionally abusive, and physically abusive. And so just going through all of that and feeling all of that, I always felt just not good enough, that I wasn't good enough for him to quit. I wasn't good enough. My kids weren't good enough. And so for me, the fact that Louie actually stopped drinking or made me feel, I just felt that it was truthful from him. The feeling I got from my ex, I'm not going to drink, but it was very quickly after he chose to. I obviously was very scared at first because I didn't know if he was going to, but I also didn't know he had a huge issue either.
Yeah, I didn't. I told her that I had a problem, but I didn't really explain it at the time. But we did have a conversation in the bathroom where she was definitely very concerned about if I was going to be truthful or not.
Just because
Oh, I understand.
I went so long with it.
How old were you when you got married?
I got married at 25. We met at 23, and I had my first baby at 24, and then we were married at 25. So, yeah, just 12 years of alcoholism, but it started out little, and this is kind of why I asked him in that when he was talking, I asked him specifically, like, well, what do you define as destructive or out of control? Because my ex thought all the time, well, it was only 5 beers, I was fine. You were fine to yourself, but you weren't fine to me. You would come home and call me a bitch, or, you know, or just not come home at all, or drunk and doing hit and runs. I'd have to pick him up off the porch, just plastered, while he's calling me a bitch and telling me, fuck you. So that's kind of why I asked. Like, I think a lot of, from the other side of people that aren't having the alcoholism issue, we see it from a whole different perspective that you don't see it from. So a lot of the time you don't think you're doing anything wrong, but you are really affecting these other people that you don't really know what you don't know that effect you're having on them. And so,
do you have any experience with alcoholism or alcohol in general? I mean, obviously I'm sure you drank or something like that at that point, you know, but before your first husband, like in childhood, did you have like it in your house or in your family or anything like that?
no, not alcohol. My dad was a sex addict and was very physically abusive, mentally abusive. But he was so busy having affairs that I didn't see him a whole lot. But when I did, he was very abusive, but never alcohol. So I didn't really experience the bad part of it until I actually got married. So, yeah.
And then what about yourself? Like any sort of issues, not necessarily just with alcohol, but any sort of issues with addiction or, you know, to the extreme. I mean, you take Louie, for example, and he went to the extreme, right?
Never.
Nothing
I grew
really?
up in a very religious home, so I was always really scared to try anything.
What was the religion?
My family's LDS.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's safe to assume, right? Because we're in Utah,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you know, you still have to ask sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Mennonite, what?
So you grew up in Utah?
Yeah, I grew up in Utah, very religious. And my mom kind of forced the religion on us. None of us are now, but so I was always scared to try anything. As I got into my teens, I started drinking, but it never really got out of hand. It was more just socially. So like if I was hanging out with friends, I would drink and we'd get drunk and wasted, but then I was fine. I never really craved it or felt like I needed it or let it get out of hand. So I never knew it was a thing really until I got married and had the issues. I was completely oblivious to it.
Yeah.
So
You said you were recently single when you met Louie.
yeah, I had only been single like 6 months.
What-
So
Was it separated or divorced single?
we were separated for 6 months. I got divorced right after I met Louie. It was finalized.
Yeah.
So
That's scary to go from where you're at and to jump, you know, here's another relationship and
it
was
was
take that leap. That's terrifying.
It was so terrifying. But Louie, if I could build a man, it would be Louie. He is just everything that I could ever ask for. He's just amazing in every way, shape, and form.
I'm
So-
just trying to thank you, that's all. Thanks for saving me.
And I think that him going through everything that he went through just draws me that much closer to him. Emotionally, I feel like I connect because I can understand it, but I also have already been through it, and I love that he is healing and that he's being sober and that he chooses it every single day. And I know that it's a fight, and so I'm just so much more grateful for him every day because he chooses it. And I know any second it could not be chosen. So I'm just so grateful that he chooses it every day.
So you talked about why you were willing to risk it, and because he made the choice and because he's held that choice, which is so amazing. That is so, so amazing. And how you grew up with your dad being so abusive, and then you experienced that for 12 years, and your kids were in that place for 12 years. What was it? Because for me personally, like I can relate to you so much. And you get out of that situation. I was like, oh, that's never happening again.
Yeah,
There's
for sure.
nobody. And then enters this guy, and I'm like, oh, shit, here we are. So what was it that, like, that made you even want to learn, to like reach into that, into where you had all of this pain, all of this trauma, and you opened your heart in that moment?
Something in my soul just craved him the second I met him.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. I wasn't interested in dating. I had so many guys ask me out. I wasn't interested. I was very closed off, very walls up every side.
Mm-hmm.
And the day I met him, I remember going upstairs and getting a drink, and he wasn't up there. And I was just like, where did he go? I honestly couldn't even remember his name.
I didn't know her name either. I had to cheat.
Something in my soul just wanted him. I remember just like touching his arm and just, I don't know. Just the day I met him, my soul wasn't letting him go.
It was a nice hoodie I had on, you know.
It's a good choice that
Don't-
day.
The only other interaction we ever had is during a belt ceremony. I had brought some ribs in, and I had brought 4 racks of ribs, 2 racks for his baby back, and the other 2 racks for country ribs. But I had the country ribs in my truck,
The
'Cause I
country ribs were big and they looked delicious
they were
and
giant
were
ones, man.
phenomenal.
But I wanted Keith and Gustavo and like the
important people.
The important people of the gym to have them. So I remember turning around and she's standing in front of me and she's like, so I get it. Only the cool people get your ribs, huh?
Good for you.
And she walked away and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, who was that? And they're like, oh, that's Tadian's mom. I was like, whatever. And that was the only interaction we had. And next thing I know, I'm hanging out with her at the fights. So
Louie is very gentleman-like. If I open my own door, he yells at me to this day.
that's not gentleman like if you yell.
He just is, he takes care of me. He loves me. He makes me feel so safe and just so endearing. And I've never encountered a man like that in forever. So really ever. My dad wasn't like that. My husband wasn't like that. So that's another thing too that keeps me, is he just satisfies my soul.
What was the processing like when you started to learn about the struggles that he has had with alcohol and the things that he had been fighting, basically all those demons the past, 7-8 years?
It's definitely sad for me. Even today, hearing some of it I've never heard before.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard it in detail, hence why I got so emotional. I hear some of it here and there, but not into huge depth. But
Not the greatest thing to talk about. Hey, come on over. We'll discuss how that goes. I mean, I guess I could put a voice on it. We could talk in the Russian all day, and we could talk about my life as growing up as a bad kid. But there's no way to really, I don't know, that's stuff I went through, and I don't want to make you cry, make it seem like I deserve some pity or something. I don't know. It's just weird.
it definitely, you see why some behavior is the way it is, though. So I think it definitely helps to hear or to talk about, because you can kind of understand where they're coming from or why they're acting a certain way or reacting. So I do feel like...
Did you have any major fears, though, when it came to like the alcohol and the alcoholism
I
and
still
stuff?
do every day.
Yeah. What's that like?
When he, like if he doesn't call me and he's out with people, I get anxiety so bad. I'm like, I just need to know where you're at and what you're doing, because you never know. You never know if he's drunk or not, which is scary because he's never given me any reason to doubt him. But it happened so much in my past where he would disappear and I wouldn't hear for an hour or two. And I'm like, I know he's drunk. And so anytime he's gone out of town, I have anxiety the entire time he's gone. And that's all I can think about. Is he drinking? Is he drinking? Who's he with? And so that definitely scares me. And I do always worry. What if there is something that causes him to relapse? I never know. So it's definitely something I struggle with all the time, just because I want to encourage him and not ever make him feel like that he's given me any reason to not trust him. But I'm also scared shitless that he is going to relapse and I'm going to have the same relationship I did. So it's definitely scary.
I always think because at some point people, like I say, adults in quotation marks, right? Because what the fuck's that? I had I went to Sam's Club the other day and I was buying shit at Sam's Club, and you swipe your card and you check out, and on the thing, like on the screen, it says that I've been a member for 14 years. And it dawned on me, I'm like, what the fuck is, that's a real adult thing to be a member of Sam's Club for 14 years. Who am I? That's super fucking crazy to me, right? Because I don't feel like an old man. I don't feel like I'm an adult.
You are.
I know, it's nuts.
So I tell her all the time, I said, I feel like I'm lied to. As a kid, I saw every adult. I'm like, man, they got to figure it out. They know what's going on. They guess every day just like me.
Yeah.
I got a good job. I got some shit going on, but tomorrow it could all change, right? I know that for a fact. I try to tell people that. I'm like, look, man, it's going great today, but that shit might be gone tomorrow. You might lose the house, the family, all that shit might be, see ya.
Well, that's the thing is at some point, as you mature and you grow up and you get more experience and life experience and all these kind of things, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got anything figured out yet, but you do have some knowledge because of the path that you've walked up to that point.
For sure.
So what is it like with your life experience, right? Having the marriage that was with the alcoholic, having all of this life experience, and then now having that awareness. And like you said, like, I'm afraid when he leaves, I'm afraid if I don't hear from him, it triggers all this anxiety inside of me. Like, what is it like living like that with that? And I don't want to say constant fear, but like regular routine anxiety that gets triggered. And the fact is, you know it, right? It's not the unknown. It's not the, like in the beginning, I'm sure with your ex-husband, it was like, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe it's, you know, we're going to get this figured out. He doesn't, you know, this unknown place. But like when you meet Louie, he's very clearly, I have a fucking problem with alcohol, and it's a no joke fucking problem. It's not, I can have a few beers and I'm okay. It's, I can't fucking drink anything. So you have this level of awareness because of the path that you've walked and that you've lived. What is it like now to kind of try to, because I'm always fascinated at like relationships and how people maneuver through every single day stuff, right? Yes, you have big things that you have to solve and big experiences, and, you know, like there's all sorts of different things. But just the minutia of everyday stuff, especially, that isn't going anywhere, right? It's going to be here for a while. How does it feel, and what does that feel like to move through that?
I have anxiety a lot.
And how does it manifest? What does it look like?
I think that I definitely overreact with things, or I make things bigger than what they are because of it. And I think a lot of the times he doesn't understand that. And so he's like, this chick's going crazy. Like, or I don't even know. I just have anxiety a lot. I used to be on anxiety medicine because it was so intense for me. But once I met Louie, he can hold me and my anxiety will instantly calm. But I just worry every day, all day. I don't know that there ever will be a day I don't. I obviously have learned a lot from it, and I expect a lot more now. And I know that I deserve so much better, and I will never accept less than what I feel I deserve ever again because of it. But I think I'll forever have anxiety. I don't know that it will ever go away. I don't know that I'll ever feel comfortable. I don't know. Obviously, I gain more and more trust with him as time goes on, but I can't help being scared or worrying or wondering. So each day is just a new battle. Depends on what we're going to do each day. And it's funny because if I know something's going to happen that would normally trigger me, I'll get anxiety days before. So it'll come before it's even happened. And he definitely feels it.
It's only been a year, 3 months, and 7 days, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's as long as it's been. And the entire time has been you guys like healing together in this journey. So
Definitely.
I think like where you're at is probably not only okay, but it makes complete sense that that's the anxiety that's going through your body. These are all normal reactions. You guys are still figuring everything out right now. Mm-hmm. You're learning what it's like to have that clarity and allow your body to heal, and how do you act now and how do you handle things now where before it was that, and to be able to trust that space and a new relationship and getting to know your kids, like all of that. Like, you guys are doing great. It's okay that there's anxiety. Of course there's anxiety. You're going to work it out and allow that space for you guys to continue to grow because you are growing so well together.
Yeah, for sure.
So enter this goddess that puts on that light for you that says, I'm going to, like, today is where change is made. Mm-hmm. And that was your start. That was your catalyst of everything. And that is amazing. That's also a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
She didn't know in the beginning.
Yeah. She knows now.
She knows now. I mean, I've told her since then. She knew.
Yeah.
But, like, she didn't know that I had thrown away the beer and that was going to be the last drink, and that
I feel like if that day I knew that he was an alcoholic, I probably wouldn't have associated with him, honestly.
You're like, good for you. I hope you heal.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do now? What connections are you making with yourself and your life that is beyond your slingshot into it? Where are your reasons to not pick it up every day?
Well, like I said, I've watched plenty of people talk about quitting and the positive effects they had on their life from it, and everybody thinks that is bullshit, right? Like, come on now. You quit and you got a better job and your life got better and you got a motorcycle and a house and a family and all that. Yeah, I did. All that. Just like everybody else talks about, like, once I stopped being an asshole, life started giving me what I wanted. Now I'm helping instruct a kids class at jiu-jitsu and train and help them with tournaments. I'm going to jiu-jitsu more, but it's flourishing faster, and the dynamic of that game for me, or of the sport, is I'm learning so much quicker. I'm able to retain the information so much better being sober. I'm learning how to be a better father. I'm learning how to be a stepfather. I'm learning how to be sympathetic and to not always just put my emotions and my needs first. I'm learning to listen. I'm learning to try to feel what somebody else is feeling other than just myself. And I tell her all the time, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm guessing here. Like, I didn't have a male father figure, a good one. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing here, but I'm trying real hard every day. So it just made me aware that some things that I used to do maybe are okay now, and some things that I did aren't okay, and they never were okay. But my young 20 or 30-year-old self thought it was okay. I just didn't know any better. So I try to just learn from what happens and make today the best I can. Because I know for sure that tomorrow's not given. There's nothing that says I'll be here tomorrow. So I want to try to make today great, if I can. And if that means going to the gym and having Craig try to strangle the breath out of my throat, then it is what it is. So, yeah, it's just day by day for me right now.
You mentioned not having like a positive male role model, right? Obviously, you had role models that were male in your life. I recently kind of looked at and unpacked some stuff in regards to my life, and I looked at that thing specifically, like male role models in my life, and I looked at how my dad never measured up in any way, shape, or form to what I needed and or wanted. And my next, like the next person in line was my oldest brother. He's 4 years older than I am. And same thing, never measured up. And so then as I progress in life and grow up, teenage, 20, 30, whatever, I had men come into my life, and the ones that I felt drawn to in some way, shape, or form, if almost like if there was any man that was like in any way, shape, or form in that type of space of a male role model, right? Even like a coworker or somebody that, you know, I remember I started a job once, and the guy that trained me, so it's not like he was some, you know, he was just the guy that had been there longer than me, and he was older than I was. And but what I have done consistently over my life is, if there's ever a man that enters into my life in any way, shape, or form and has anything that remotely resembles a male role model, I almost immediately, if I feel drawn to them, if I, you know, have some sort of connection with them, I like lift them up and ascend them to this heavenly place of the pedestal where they can do no wrong, and they're this amazing, perfect person that like I idolize and I want to be like them. And I mean, just everything. And I still do it as an adult. Like, I realized recently that it's something that is still super applicable in my life. So I'm wondering if you can relate to that in any way, shape, or form. Having never had a healthy role model growing up, what does it look like throughout your adult life? Your relationships with men, specifically in that role model type relationship?
I've met a lot of great men in my life. I've had guys inspire me to do better, and I've had guys inspire me to not try to move so fast. You know, just kind of hang out. And, I can honestly say that most of my life outside of my father has been great with people I get along with most everybody. I like learning from people and things that I don't know about, you know. She teases me, but I have a bad habit of remembering things and just picking up on things, and I can rattle it back off. As long as it's not music. If it's music, I can't do it. It doesn't work. But I've tried to just take little key parts that I see these men do in the way they interact with people and try to apply that to mine, because all I knew was just freak out, smash some shit, say some mean shit, and hope for the best tomorrow. So it's been a learning experience for me, and especially over the last year or so of being focused, clear. You meet people like Craig, you know. Had I just seen your post of we're looking for people for the podcast, if you got just interesting story, let me know. If I hadn't rolled with you and talked with you and even then it's not like we talk, me and you, every time you're at the gym. It's like, hey, good to see you. But there's a comfortability there. There's for lack of, I guess, better wording for me, it's, hey, here's an opportunity to do what I've been talking about, to maybe get the story out there and talk to people and help them. You know, I'm trying to figure out, how do I help anybody? Can I? Does the story help? Maybe not. Maybe the story's too much. Maybe it's too much drama. It's too much violence. But how do I focus it down to get somebody else to pay attention and be like, hey, you know, maybe it is out there? Because if you told me 1 year and 4 months ago that there was a possibility that somebody could come into my life and completely take it away from me that fast and never come back, I tell you, you're a fucking liar. It's not possible. That doesn't exist. But it does. So, how do I tell people?
I think your story does help, right? We go back.
I see you as a role model is what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
For me, just, you know, I know you've been through some stuff, but you're also fixing some things and working on some things. And, I see you as a type of role model, and that's why I asked you about this. So it's not only just to come out here and hang out with you and be on this podcast, but I do see you as a role model and someone that maybe I can learn a few things I don't know about.
I totally have all of my shit together. I don't know if you know this, but I've been a member of Sam's Club for 14 years.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough, sir.
Totally have adulting down, and I have it figured out.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. What was I going to... That was the other thing. I think story is super important. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people... First off, Louie, you shared... Because I have a long... history of listening to bullshit from people. Mm-hmm. I've got a really, really good bullshit meter, partially because I'm really good at feeding bullshit. And so it's really easy for me to see when people aren't genuine and when they're not honest and when they're not truthful and when they're trying to spin things in a certain way, right? All these kind of things. And I think story is really, really important to share because it humanizes people and it brings people together. And somebody I know for certain is going to listen to your story on this podcast, and it's going to impact them and it's going to help them because you did share honestly and because you were vulnerable and truthful and real. And that's huge. I think that's massively important. And so frequently people will hide behind story because it's their bullshit story that they like to present and give to people. I've done that a lot over the course of my life. But in what other ways do you kind of see, like in your mind, if you could paint the beautiful picture of now moving forward? Obviously, it's a day-by-day thing for you, like you've said, but in what ways are you hoping to be able to help people, or in what ways would you like to help people moving forward? And maybe you haven't
I
thought about it a lot.
I have. I mean, I really have, and I never come up with a great answer that's good enough for me. But I also have a bad habit of not thinking of what I'm doing or what I'm thinking is good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want people to know that there's tomorrow. And it can be great. Now, you're always going to have struggles. You're always going to have fights. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have kids. You're going to have grocery bills, gas prices, whatever. You're going to have day-to-day stuff, no matter what you do. Life. And life's not fair. I tell this to the kids all the time. Like, it's not fair. It's never fair. Never going to be fair. I don't know what you signed up for, but it's not life because it's not fair. But no matter what you're going through, emotional abuse, physical abuse, alcoholism, drug abuse, there's tomorrow. There is a way out. There is light at the end of that tunnel. There is that person. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. You just have to want to do it. You have to tell yourself it's time. You can't hide behind it anymore. You can't blame it on other people. You can't tell yourself that it's somebody else's problem, because it's not. And once you can accept that it's not their problem and it's your problem, and know you want to do something about it, you can. And it'll change quicker than you think. Before you know it, it'll be 1 year, 3 months, and a week later, and you haven't had alcohol. And I can promise you that if you get to that point, it's a great feeling. And it's a feeling you've never had. It's a feeling you never thought you'd have. It's unfortunate that you have to have that feeling. Like, I never wanted to say, hey, I've been sober 1 year, 3 months, and a week. Like, I feel like an asshole that I even bring it up. And part of that's why I didn't, reach out. I probably could go to AA meetings and help people. Like I said before, I just don't know when I qualify to help people. So this is my first start. And from here, I hope that I can help more. And if that means someday I do conversations at public gatherings, or I take somebody under my wing and try to get them better, it is what it is. But I will for sure spend the rest of my days trying to help people. And if that's to get out of being alcoholic, to get off drugs, to be better at jiu-jitsu, to be a better parent, if I can help somebody, I feel like I should.
Well, dude. I don't ever say dude. I should say dude more often.
I say dude.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you to both of you guys for coming on the show and sharing and being willing to share. I want you guys to come back, hopefully, down the road. Obviously, you're welcome to come back anytime, but we would love to have you guys come back on. And I don't know, maybe we'll do something funner next time.
So, yeah, like I said, we can talk about whatever. I'm sorry if I got too deep and dark.
No.
And I didn't let Lynzie talk hardly at all. I apologize.
You don't have to apologize, man. It's exactly what
You
this
can just
podcast
unplug
is all
the
about.
mic next time. And anyways, Lynzie, so.
No, you guys were awesome. Is there anything you want to say before we close out? Either of you? Last words of advice.
Specifically.
I just want to say thanks. Thanks to you guys for having us on, and trusting us to be part of your podcast life. What's episode 239, you said?
Yeah.
So I feel privileged to be on here and talk about it. It's my first experience with all this stuff. I'm a little nervous. I know I talk a lot, but I appreciate it. But most of all, I want to say thanks to Lynzie and putting up with me and all my shenanigans and all my stuff I don't have figured out. I know it's hard sometimes, but thanks for always being there, for showing me that it can be better. Appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it. You do it every day. You choose it every day, and you do it. It's not me. You choose that. You do it every day, and that's what I love the most. That's what shows me the love the most. I feel important. I feel worth it, and I am very grateful to you for that.
Anytime.
Dave, you got anything before we close out?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting us see this. So, I'm excited for you to come back. And don't let him fool you. It won't be fun. We go deep all the time. It'll be deep next time. I will let you know. He always says that, but we jump in. So
It'll be fun. We have a sign off that is relatively recent. Yeah, baby, we have to, regardless of what the episode is.
serious.
It's when in doubt, spread the cookies out. Right? Isn't that it? Or did I fuck it up?
It was a single cookie, but you're plural over there.
You said cookies last time.
I didn't.
You
I
can
said
just have
cookie.
one cookie. You've got to have
You
more
said
than
cookies
one
last
cookie.
time.
Did I make it plural?
You said cookies last
Did
time.
I? Are you sure?
And then
There's
when
video proof.
I
can
know
go
when
back
I
and
was
listen.
editing, I was trying to remember if it was one. Either way, spread the cookies out.